Clifford Carnicom, what about the different weathermen? There have been several meteorologists, agreed meteorologists, that have gone public, work for TV stations, saying that they can clearly see the jets flying and blocking weather, and that they're seeing weather patterns that they've never seen in their careers, in some cases spanning decades, and then, back to college, that there are new types of clouds, that new things are happening. What's your take on their comments and what they bring to the plate?
Well, the physics of the atmosphere have been changed. They've been altered. So the game is not really the same as we know it. And, the fascinating thing is that a child growing up now, the question of what is normal comes up. It's quite interesting, but a child growing up now would never even know or have the memories that we have as adults. And this is now their frame of reference. And, history is written by the victors, that statement. You can pretty much create whatever world you want.
My last question for you before we take 3 final calls is, getting outside the science, getting outside just your research, what do you, bottom line, think it's really all about? What do you think the government is doing?
If I'm pressed to offer a single word that encapsulates and describes what I see happening here, I have to use the word control. It's the best I can do.
Well, for those that don't know, we are really a spaceship. People go, a spaceship? Yes. We are a third planet from the sun, orbiting a standard sun, 2/3 of the way out on the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Life lives in a very thin little layer, really the first 10,000 feet of the atmosphere. Above that, you have major oxygen narcosis problems. Life lives in the first 10,000 feet, a very thin veneer around the globe. And weather manipulation is admitted, patented, documented. The U.S. government totally admits it. And then there's all these other programs going on. So people need to stop denying this.
Yeah, you have it exactly right, Alex. And I really don't, Al Gore in his film, at least to his credit, he did make a point of it. And that is, I don't think people have any idea how fragile this atmosphere is. It's an eggshell that's around us. And we have changed it. And I see it as a threat to the viability of this planet as a whole.
Well, the way I heard one biologist put it, we interviewed, was, heard my dad put it the same way, we're basically like fish. I mean, we're swimming in a gas. We live in a gas. The ocean is just a, thicker H2O, that molecule. But, they basically swim in their gas. Not really a gas, but people get my point. We are swimming in gas. We are living in gas, a 10,000-foot layer. We live in a 10,000-foot deep water. I mean, are you getting my analogy?
Exactly right. Are you willing, this is a general question to everyone, are you willing to have your atmosphere sacrificed for the intentions that are undeclared and unknown? Are you willing to sacrifice both your atmosphere and potentially the world?
I remember watching a Discovery Channel program, I think it was called Trinity, out there at the Trinity grounds where they tested the nukes.
Yeah.
And they had a line in there where they were shooting in one night something like 20 huge hydrogen bombs into the upper atmosphere and detonating them, and they said that they thought it might ignite the world's atmosphere, but they were still going to do it. I mean, what is the mindset of these people?
That's right. There may come a time, the way we're headed, where you won't have the opportunity to even address the question or answer the problem if you're not willing to act now. I'm not willing to make that sacrifice.
Do you think these, I'm sure you heard of the UT professor that says we all need to die, including his family, Dr. Pianka. Do you think this fits into the whole population control agenda?
Again, I may not be able to ascribe intent, but what I can say is that it is expected that there will be increased mortality as well as the potential of a huge host of unknown pathogens that we are subject to, and this is not based on speculation. There's a whole arena of biological research that we haven't even begun to touch on, which is very real.
I forget, I've seen so much, but there are links to the NASA website off the sites that may have been Carnicom.com. We got to hurry here, folks. I'm going over. But where it'll show NASA photos 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there's no spider webs. And then you look now at Africa, Europe, England, and it's cobwebs of trails, and they say, it'll say increased jet travel has caused this.
Yes, and I have to dismiss that phrase because unfortunately the debunkers have their little methods and their little phrases. and the spider web thing it doesn't apply. And it appears as though we're dealing with a polymer is the best that I can come up with right now.
No. I meant the satellite photos where there's these webs of trails.
Oh, just the webs of the planes, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very true. Yeah, NASA, again, I believe the processes of indoctrination are very much in place.
All right, I know you got to go in just a moment. Let's just rampage through these calls. Eleanor in Tennessee, thanks for holding her on the air.
Well, Alex, in the late 90s, I lay on the ground outside and observed fixed-wing aircraft, two of them, one going back and forth one way in one area of the sky, another going back and forth in another area of the sky. They were low enough that I could see they had a canister on the either side of the aircraft behind the front wings. From those canisters came these clouds of whatever, with whatever was being spewed out. The planes were going back and forth over an area, expressing the substance, till the sky is full of trails. Within 4 or 5 hours, the trails spread out. They come together to form what I call a blanket over the sky. I had read where the Russians used such during World War II to keep the Germans from bombing the cities. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. You want to comment on what she just said?
Just in my case, in my particular area here, all of my work, I've measured it over and over and over, and I'm a pretty good judge of altitude. I was a surveyor in the past. All of my work here is at high altitude. There are no planes that fly low here. If there were, you can bet that I would have some photographs of what's happening. So those folks that are advantageously placed to where they can see these things at lower altitude, evidence is needed, and it just doesn't exist properly yet.
And some of it's real. Some of it, is legitimate, though we've caught them doing biological, chemical, radiological tests with this as a cover. But 2 months ago, I'm listening to the radio, Southwest Austin today, don't be alarmed if you see small aircraft spraying. They're trying to kill, I believe it was the Chinese something, boar beetle or something. And then, there's a deadly mosquito, in Corpus Christi when I was down there fishing. And so you'll see planes spraying. So there are other planes out spraying legitimately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how long have we been living with crop dusters and agricultural control? Sure. But
I'm not saying that's what she saw. I'm not poo-pooing her. Sure, I'm not poo-pooing her either. I'm just, sometimes there's real stuff going on.
Exactly.
Look, very fast, let's talk to Mike in Texas and then Liam, and that's it. Mike, go ahead.
Oh, thanks a lot, Alex. God bless y'all for the work that you're doing. I just want to say, a couple of years ago, I was looking at what you call a chemtrail in the sky. But he was only spraying where there was currently cloud cover. So a lot of people look up and they're like, okay, that's just a contrail from a plane. But in this case, it was just on, then you turn it off for a little bit, get up to another cloud. Well, maybe that was a cloud he put there. But spray again.
What about this phenomenon in the photos and video that have been shot where they're just turning them on and off?
Sure, I have a classic photo of that, one of the early ones that was taken, which is used to make this point, and that is, in some cases, it's clearly, let's say, artificially controlled and distributed. And that particular photo I'm talking about, let me say there was a great deal of interest by certain parties to try and identify the location, source, and timing of that photograph, and I know that there was a clear effort to want to identify that particular pilot of that particular plane at that time, because it's a rather incriminating photograph if you look at it, taken up in Colorado. And the explanations of variation in meteorological conditions don't.
Well, you'll see stuff too when they're flying these grid patterns. Is when they get to the end and they're ready to make their turn, they turn off. Then when they turn back around to go back, it turns back on.
These are systematic operations, and now they're very complex, extremely complex, and nobody has a complete handle on exactly the logistics of it.
All right,
but they are systematic.